engineered condition of brainwashing for 8,500 years, going back to the beginning of written history. And I took time to do the studies on this, and that's why I can make the statement to everybody. I'm not here to disqualify anybody's religious beliefs. It's just subjective interpretation of knowing how how you got into the situation in the first place. So it's important that all of us are aware of our heritage. And what we're doing is we're bringing things into a mathematical procedure of knowing where the secrets lie. When you're able to learn syntax and get into the Bibles, any Bible you want to choose, and identify those parts of speech and put the missing words in, you're going to see new definitions. And they can be written both frontwards and backwards. And that's the unique thing. The math interface on grammar was very simple. I spent 3 years with all different kinds of different programs in math, trying to break this code. And the code was x plus 1 equals 2, 2 minus 1, yeah. So you got x plus 2 equals 3, 3 minus 2 equals 1, 1 equals x, x times 2, 3 equals 6, 6 divided by 3 equals 2, 2 equals x. In other words, we add, subtract, multiply, and divide to find out, by doing math backwards, what the secret is to correct the math. And no one ever went to oral math problem because they said we just do it backwards and check your math. That was pretty simple. So what I have in my hand here is a pen. I throw that pen up in the air. The motion of thinking didn't change this fact. So motion, and the courts always want you to file motions. But they change the facts with motions because what they're doing is they're modifying the facts with adverbs, creating verbs. But the verb, now they want to say the pen, does an adverb making pen a verb. They want to take this article and change it into something that's not. Therefore, you commit perjury. So if we go back to this problem here, if we have a fact here at the beginning, and we have a fact over here, we have a fact here, and we have a fact here, this must be a correct program. The thing that appears in front of a fact is a conjunction, which is and or. Those are the only two conjunctions in the English language. What you have in front of that, when you factor them out, is you got a plus 2 and a minus 2, a multiple 3, and a division 3. Okay, when we were in grafting, here's a negative 2 and here's a positive 2. When we go up and down the scale, it's motion. Therefore, we assign the number to a verb, and we factor that out because a verb doesn't have any modification. That's your thinking of a sentence. What is left is add, subtract, multiply, and divide, which are opposite operations, better known as the preposition or the position. What is a position? A position means we will use we're going to have a contract first before we get started. We agree that we're going to use the ABC alphabet to identify this pen or this object. With the ABC alphabet, we're now going to take this object and we're going to spell it pen, P-E-N. What is the pen for? The pen is for writing. So we're going to have a alphabet, a spelling, and a definition. Therefore, we know what the position of this object is. Now, who owns this pen? For my pen, with my pen, of my pen, by my pen. You say, now I can go ahead and identify this because of lodial positioning of ownership, which we used to call the article. But the article, when you had a preposition, it meant you had no position, so you could presume anything. If you had no preposition and no ownership, but an article, which meant no contract, you had a no-no, henceforth a noun. But now we had to change it to a position, lodial fact. With that said, we now have a word that has 900 definitions. I proved that every word in the English language has 900 definitions because we have 68 articles and 68 prepositions and 38 articles. That gives you 1,800. When you multiply it, divided by 2 is 900. So with 900 definitions for a pen, I can say, for my pen, for your pen, with my pen, of my pen. Every time I change the preposition, I change the definition. I can say his, yours, hers, this, the, a, and. I can keep going through the whole list. Put them all down, cross-reference them all up with the word pen, and I got 900 definitions. Put two definitions together, 900 times 900 is 810,000 variables with 2 words. Put a third one times 900 and you've got 720 million variables. Put a fourth one and you have 640 billion variables. A fifth one, you have 540 trillion variables. They said, well, the computers are only rated for the capacity. Write a 200-word sentence, and we're talking about a number with 200 zeros after it, variables, to write a legal sentence. They're saying the computers don't have enough memory capacity to write one sentence. Try writing a whole book or a 400-page website and do it correct 100% of the time. When you're working in a math problem, you've got to be correct 100% of the time. There is no room for error. You know, they build a space shuttle with 3 million components. It goes to the moon. They screw up with one. Any number of variables, 3 million correct things times 0, still equals 0. That's why the space shuttle blew up in 1983. I was there at ground zero as that thing came over the top of the Kennedy Space Center and blew up right on top of me. To be there at the only one of 50 space shuttle launches to see that one. I was there 4 times to see 4 successful launches, but I got to see that one blow up. You know, it's a rare. I've been in a lot of rare positions. I was in Hurricane Camille, Biloxi, Mississippi, when it took out Camille and Biloxi Air Force Base, and Keesler Air Force Base. I was at ground zero on a body cleanup in 1969, in August. There's a lot of unique things I've been exposed to. Been in tornadoes. Been picked up, had my car picked up in a tornado, survived that. The man in front of me died. His car got flipped over and blew up. He was destroyed. Just 80 miles an hour, that much, to travel 15 feet. He died, I didn't, because he was 15 feet in front of me. The amount of things, why you're here, why you're supposed to be here, all the split-second things that happen in your life, but the snap of a finger. I was 18 years old. I'm standing up against a tree. I'm playing with a 20-gauge shotgun shell while rabbit hunting. And I bend over to pick up, I dropped the shell, and as I bent over to pick it up, a 30-30 slug split the back of my jacket open. Did I drop that pen, or was it knocked out of my hand? Knocked out of your hand. And I bent over to pick it up just as the slug split through my jacket. And I still have the bullet hole in the back of my middle of my back. A scar formed years later. And it's quite prevalent. It's about 1 inch in diameter, about a 1/4 inch deep, where the bullet went through me. But why am I still here doing this? Is because I'm supposed to be. And if they are successful in assassinating me, they just go back and reset the clock and jump and fix it. Because this math interface on communications will stop wars and guarantee that planet Earth does have a future, not only with our own people, our own races, our own tribes, or with ET when he shows up. Because eventually we're going to evolve. We're out there in space. We're broadcasting. You don't think those signals don't go out? And somebody's going to be listening someplace and show up here? You know, do the math. We're a young planet. We're a young species amongst the billions of years that this world's been around. The proof of that is in the spacecraft up in Greenland, that they've been here 50,000 years ago. And those guys were 65 to 85 feet tall. They had dinosaurs. The world was big way back when. Now everything is small. Question?
Yeah, you talked a couple times about ETs. What exactly are they, or what's the purpose?
ET can be many of anything. It means extraterrestrial, which means not of this world. And, you know, there's been millions of sightings worldwide of spacecrafts, right? Even a couple weeks ago, opening night of the Olympics. Anybody watch that on TV? In London, they had the fireworks went off above the stadium, and that's a no-fly zone because of security. And there was a UFO above the stadium, about 50, 60 feet in diameter, because everything went up in so many different spectrums of light. It was cloaked, had a cloaking device, but because of the amount of light frequencies from the explosives of all the different fireworks, chemical light, it illuminated the spacecraft above the stadium. And it was on YouTube, and over 200 different countries videotaped it. And they tried to play it down as being a balloon in the air. There was no balloons up there. There was no blimps. There was no aircrafts. But ET was up there watching. I say that I do this at all the seminars. Small craft would not have power to travel between point A and point B because of the universe, how big it is. In other words, our closest star is 4 light years away, Orion. Because an object no bigger than this room wouldn't have a fuel supply capable of doing something like that. So my take on this is that these are time machines from Earth, from our own future, because they're only visible for a split second. And the same craft has been videotaped and photographed millions of times over the last 70 years all over the planet, identical to the one above the stadium.
So are those pictures still on YouTube?
No, every one of them on the internet has been taken down. Nobody's got it. There was a few sites that were up there, but the government's been chopping them off left and right. Anything with if you type in, but people do have copies, and they're putting them up as fast as they tear them down. So if you type in UFO over Olympics opening day, it'll pull up a whole bunch of different sites and see pictures of it. My surmise is that these are time machines that come back in time to view or stop events that would destroy the planet. Some crazy guy setting off a dirty bomb, for instance. They run the video backwards and find out who's responsible, come back in time to remove this individual. In as much as mom and dad never met. Instead of turning right at the corner, he turned left and never met his mate. Therefore, the individual was never created. The crime never took place. It's something as simple as that. Being able to fix the time-space continuum, because, you know, in the Cold War, from World War II until present day, they built 88,000 nuclear bombs. They didn't detonate any of them because of what happened. Everybody knows Oppenheimer, the guy who developed the atomic bomb, World War II, in Area 51. His brother died 2 years ago. On his deathbed, he gave the GPS location of 2 B-2 bombers in Germany that had flown through the Philadelphia experiment at the time it took place in 1944. The window was opened, and the 2 B-2 bombers flew through that window in 2007 or 2008 it was, and they flew back in time and landed in Germany in 1945. And they built this hangar, and they had this this hangar completely covered over with dirt, 20 feet of dirt, with these two B-2 bombers with 4 nuclear bombs in there, but they didn't have fuel for them. Otherwise, they could have flown those bombers into New York City from Germany. On his deathbed, he gave the GPS the location of those two, and they were dug up. That was up on YouTube, that they had recovered these 2 bombers that had flown back in time and verified that the window is still open on the Philadelphia experiment. There's events that are taking place that are becoming more and more relevant to the relevancy of what quantum language is and its importance in the timeline of this planet, and why I'm allowed to teach this, and how specific events have taken place that I've uncovered in contract language, like the beginning of the post office, how the fraud took place, and been able to unravel who do you prosecute in court. When we go to court, this here is a federal lawsuit that I wrote. This deals with, this one is for, this is the International Maritime Organization. Russell Gould and I put this one together. But this is a document contract, federal postal court, federal court venue document. It's postal, folks. We have federal flag and a federal postage stamp. This is a federal court we're suing. When this goes into this commission under maritime law, this is the court. This paper is. And when it's filed at the Maritime Commission, this was filed creating this vessel in a sea of space to be the court. They have to come into the understanding of the syntax within this document and say, all the Maritime Commission officers have to say, show me your correct parse, syntax, grammar, oath of office. Show me the correct parse, syntax, laws, rules, regulations, and codes that allow you to do and capture the things you capture. We have rewritten your lawsuit or rewritten your charter in the correct parse, syntax, grammar. And we are now forming a treaty with you through the Document Contract Postal Vessel Corporation. That's myself and Russell Gould. Yes?
So if you taught this stuff to them, you mentioned in 2000s, why are they still going on in their fiction?
They're only advertising the fiction to you as the population. Why? Because if they were to stand up and say, okay, we've got a quantum contract here, and the whole planet is sitting there in fiction, it'd be like the president getting on CNN and explaining the dollar bill to you, disqualifying all money. You can't have, the whole world has been 8,500 years in fiction with all their fiction contracts. So you have to be responsible at all times. That when we want to switch gears, I only have to educate 1% of the population. Those are your political leaders, your judges, your attorneys, your politicians, Congress, Senate, the legislature of all 250 countries, all the bankers, simultaneously, where the United Nations stands up and says, we're going to switch gears today. Everybody changes on the same day.
Is that going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to happen. Just like they had the new money come out. They went to the euro. These were different exercises in communicating a change, a dynamic change of a large area of international trade, commerce, and contract, and see how the people accepted it. Well, it worked for the euro. It worked for when the new money came out. Nobody got crazy. Stock market didn't go nuts.
So any time frame?
Well, 12/21/2012 is a couple of weeks away. We'll find out, because that's what all the calendars say is the beginning of the end. Yes?
So are we going to have an Amero?
Well, okay, the Amero is Canada, Mexico, and the United States and Central America. In other words, everyone on the North American continent using the same currency, and tear down the borders between Canada and Mexico, so that it would be one country under the Postal. The Amero is a reality, but it's not in place yet because of the value of trade between the different countries. The contract that surrounds the Amero is written in adverb verb. That's why it has not been implemented. It may be implemented with the next presidential election, provided the treaties have been reconfigured. When I went to China, we took the new transportation money contracts in quantum grammar. These are the upgrades from 2000 on the international trade agreements we wrote with the different 82 country banking. And those have now been implemented. We spent $2,500 on mailings to mail out the new contracts to all the same countries that we are treated with beforehand. We sued all 50 election boards with the correct parse, syntax, grammar election forms, which are 7, and 25 government agencies here about 6 weeks ago, before we went over to China. Those were all sent out registered mail. Pink card return receipts. We haven't gotten back a single pink card. However, when I walked into the federal building, the marshals surrounded me and said the Justice Department is extremely interested in you. We've got so much flash taking place on the computer on you. You're a real hot box. He says, well, I'm a presidential candidate. I says, I filed my papers. I says, so under the guise of the Secret Service. So they escorted me out of the building, all 6 marshals, and said, you're not allowed to be in our building. You're a presidential candidate. You're under Secret Service, guys. You can't be in a federal building. You're a sovereign person. And you're also an Article 3 judge. Anybody know what an Article 3 judge is? You probably never heard of one before. Well, even the Marshal Service said, we've heard the word Article 3 judge. We've never met one before. You're a genuine sovereign and an Article 3 judge. And an Article 3 judge is a judge on contract, folks. I don't work in a courtroom. Don't sit in a courthouse anywhere in the world. The courthouse is the paper. The paper is the contract. The contract words on the paper is a constitution. The Constitution articulates, under law of the flag and postal codes, the geographical location in terms of a constitution, Title 28, 1331, venue, authorization for a clerk to file the paperwork, a 1361 authorization for a judge, and a Title 28, Section 636 to order the court open. In other words, ordering the piece of paper to be an open court, and whoever signs the stamp endorses it and puts their name on it as a federal judge is the federal judge on the paper. Because it's a federal stamp and a federal flag, there is no such thing as a state court. Any state court touching money, doesn't it say Federal Reserve Note? You can't be federal in a state entity. If there is no money involved in a state court operation, they must get you to sign a bond making your body collateral for the bond. There's no paper. You become a value as a bond. That's why you have to bond out of a state court. They can't create money. They're not federal. They're state. And the courthouse is a foreign vessel in dry dock. So you've left Indiana territory, and now you've entered the condition of an illusion who makes you bond yourself. Once you're bonded to the vessel in dry dock, the sheriff can leave the courthouse, and the sheriff is only there to protect the judge, and go out and capture you as a bounty hunter. And that gives him his authorization to leave the vessel and go out onto the Indiana territory and capture you. If you don't bond out, you'll never leave the foreign vessel in dry dock. Because if they don't own you, they can't leave the courthouse to come and get you. Now, when you file one of my lawsuits in federal district court, once it's contracted with the clerk of the courts, which is responsible to receive vessels and dock the vessel, a district court judge is not a federal judge. They must sign the federal oath and must sign the federal lawsuit to be a federal judge on the lawsuit.